Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Madonna and today I'm going to share with you on how to grow zucchini and squashes at home from planting, harvesting, and cooking. So let's get started. So zucchini and squashes are one of the largest and fastest growing plants or vegetables that are easy to grow in a small backyard garden or container gardening. If you're just starting a small garden, you can grow them in containers, bucket, a garden bed, or in-ground bed, and you can also grow it definitely vertically. So there are two kinds of squashes, mainly the summer squashes, like the zucchini, patty pans, this type of squash that has an upright and bushy appearance, and you have to continuously harvest them while the fruits are still young. And the second one are the winter squashes, and these types of variety or squash types needs trellis or enough space to trail around and grow, and the fruit needs to mature on its stem or plant, and mostly you can harvest them in fall. So depending where you live, you can sow summer squash in spring and winter squash as well and harvest them in falls, and it takes roughly about 2 to 3 months between sowing and harvesting, and you can start your seed indoors if you want an early crop, or let it germinate when the soil has already warmed up, and you can sow them in small pots or direct sow them in the soil. And I highly recommend to make your soil fertile and amend it first with fertilizer, because squash and zucchinis love rich, fertile, and well-drained soil. So before you plant, it really makes sense and really very beneficial to maximize the growth of your plant if you already add on fertilizer or make the soil fertile ahead of time. So for location, you can grow your squash in full sun, and if it happens, you grow squash seedling very quickly, very early during the season. You can cover them with cloth or plastic to provide heat. And for fertilizer, since squash are hungry vegetables or plant, they require lots of fertilizer, and they'll have a well-rotted manure, compost, and please feed them regularly. I do make my own compost and fertilizer, but I also highly recommend the Job's organic fertilizer. These are the granular fertilizer that you can spread perfectly on the ground for squash and zucchinis, and have tried it many times already, and it's perfect also for your tomatoes, peppers, and any fruit-bearing vegetables that you have in your garden. Or you want to learn how to make your own compost or fertilizer, I made a separate video for that. You can check it out later if you like. And for watering, I highly recommend to water your squash gently and slowly. In hot days like in summer, you can water them twice a day, but please check if the leaves are droopy or if the soil is dry and you want to water them more often than you would. And sometimes squash will give you small harvest if not watered well, because that's how they absorb their nutrients from the soil along with the fertilizer. And now let's talk about pollination. So squash and zucchinis has male and female flowers, and it will help you increase your yield or harvest if you're aware of these types of flowers. So female flowers has immature fruit at the bottom, while male flowers has long thin stem. So this is how I pollinate them. So once I found these two different flowers, I just remove the yellow petals of the male flowers around it and rub it gently to transfer the pollen at the center of the female flower. So some people will try to tie the female petals closely to fully or successfully pollinate them as well, but it's not necessary. And instead of relying on the bees or other insects or ants, you can hand pollinated. So pollinating squash and zucchini is very, very easy, and anyone can do it. You can do it. And squash flowers and zucchinis are edible flowers. You can make stuffings with it, bake it, or mix it with your fried eggs for breakfast. And now that we're done with pollination, let's go now to the pest and disease. So zucchinis and squashes are very attractive and amazing vegetables, but like any other vegetables in your garden, they are no exception to pests and diseases. So pests like squash, vine borer is one of the most common insects that will lay their eggs in different soft parts in the stem, flowers, and a very young immature squash or zucchini fruits. It will take like 9 days for their eggs to hatch, so you better watch out your squash plants really often, especially when they start to flower. I believe they are really attracted to those beautiful vibrant yellow flowers, and really they can lay eggs like hundreds of eggs. So you can hand pick them. I especially put them in a plastic, the eggs, and try not to throw it everywhere because they may hatch and then just spread out. So I have experience growing squash and zucchinis before and growing them, and to my surprise it really was a nightmare because since I don't have any idea what this type of insects were, and it's already too late already for me to remove the eggs. It has been hatched already and then turned into caterpillars, and I started to chew the vines of young tender fruits, and I really made a separate video for it and how to remove the squash or vine borer. If you'd like to check it out later, you can. So I lost most of my zucchini and squashes because of those insects, and I have no knowledge before how to remove it. And some people may try to use caterpillar injection, and you can try it if you like. It's like a type of bacteria that you can inject to your plants to kill the caterpillar, but I really feel pity for the caterpillars. But then I think just the awareness it brings, it's really a hard lesson for me. So the next one is the powdery mildew. This is a very common as well. You will notice that on their leaves it's kind of like this powdery white color. This is due to the lack of airflow. And make sure you have enough space for the plants. They tend to get crowded sometimes, especially the squash, because they like to sprawl around and spread. And sometimes you can cut the leaves, especially the bottoms. They are the ones that are more exposed in the ground, and sometimes they already touching other plants as well, so you want to cut them out. And sometimes I will throw them directly on the garbage or the trash can. I don't compost them just to minimize the contamination. And also you will notice the yellowing of leaves can also be due to overwatering or underwatering. So look for those signs or lack of fertilizers, and you will encounter the stem of the fruit or young undeveloped fruit will drop. Sometimes they can be caused by the fungi or bacteria, and they will rot. It's very helpful that you attract predatory insects as well, because there are like squash bugs, cucumber beetles, that really also other predators like mice that you want to wrap around your fruit or cover them, because they can munch it before you can harvest it. So alright, let's go now to the most exciting part of growing zucchini or squashes, which is harvesting. So growing squash are very rewarding, especially when harvest time. All the hard work and labor really paid off sometimes, and it's really along the way you get a good learning experience about growing this type of vegetable. So I have tried growing kabocha, butternut, zucchini, yellow squash, and scallop squash, and also bigger type of pumpkin. And I have experimented growing them in pots and container and in ground beds, and so far I have the most success in in-ground bed because they have more freedom to sprawl around, and the roots can go deeper and access to more nutrients and water. You can harvest your zucchini while they are still young and fresh. You can twist them just with your hand or cut it with a sharp knife. So when you harvest them young, the plants are more encouraged to produce more fruits for you. So when you have zucchini and patty pans, I highly recommend to get it while their skin are still thin, because if you let it mature and it gets bigger, it gets chewy, and it's really not so edible, and they're ready for a really mature or drying. So just bear that in mind. Winter squashes like kabocha, butternut, and other types of squash, it takes a longer time before harvesting, so they are very rewarding to grow. Though if you want, or if you have more time, you can grow that. And if you will store it, you can cure them or allow them to harden their skin, and you can harvest them before the first frost and store them in dry place. I believe that squash, especially winter squash, are great for a long-term storing. You don't have to put it in the fridge. You just keep it, and it can store for many months. And let's go now here to cooking. So you can cook your squash and zucchini in any way you want, by baking, stir fries, boiled, saute them, roast, make muffins or cakes, and they are really very good. I'm very pleased, and it is very rewarding. And you can save the seeds as well for future planting. Please enjoy them in any way that you want, and it's really very fulfilling. It's yummy, delicious, and very rewarding, especially you grow it on your own. So there you go, friends. That's how to grow zucchini and squashes, from planting, harvesting, cooking, and eating. And you just want to make sure that you give them enough fertilizer, sunlight, space, water them slowly, and you will be harvesting your very own zucchini or squash anytime. And if you want to watch more videos, I have a whole playlist there for you, or you can watch the next videos after this. And if you have any questions, please comment down below. I would love to hear from you. What's your favorite zucchini or squash type? Please comment down below. You can check it out, the whole playlist, if you like. So thank you for watching, and happy gardening!